Some of you do your own selling for the firm. Many of you have the opinion that, man, if you just put me in front of them, I close the deal. But what we have found is most law firms tell us they think they're closing 80% of their deals into clients. What we have found over 15 years of running data is that we're averaging just north of 36%. And when they actually run the data, their eyes are open and they realize, oh my gosh, there's this unbelievable opportunity. Welcome to this week's episode of the Your Practice Mastered podcast. My name is Richard James, and today we're going to cover the 9 reasons you absolutely must install a non-attorney salesperson into your firm this year. Before we go any further, let's talk about where does sales sit in the firm. We have an umbrella that we call marketing. Under that umbrella is advertising and sale. This is a common misunderstanding among all business owners, not just law firm owners, and it's predominantly because of industry lingo. So industry lingo calls your agency a marketing agency. Well, the reality is they're an advertising agency. Most of them are dealing with advertising products for you. They're not a marketing agency because they don't handle sales functionality for you. Secondarily, under the marketing umbrella is sales, and sales is where we convert the leads that the advertising agency generates into paying clients. So marketing is the umbrella where advertising generates leads and sales generates the clients. Hope that makes sense to you. Now, sales has 2 parts, right? When we're talking about the sales conversation, it has 2 fundamental parts. In most law firms, it has an intake section and it has the closing section. For the purpose of this conversation, we're going to talk about the closing section, and that's using a non-attorney to actually sell in the initial consultation process. Now, I need you to understand something. It's not news that we're using non-attorney salespeople. When I first built a law firm in 2010, I used non-attorney salespeople. The Bar Association in Arizona clearly stated you could use non-attorneys to sell, you just had to have some conditions. Most bar associations have guidelines as to how you can go about doing that. Now, I'm going to break into that later. Let's break into the 9 reasons that you absolutely must start your non-attorney selling this year. The very first reason that you want to use a non-attorney salesperson is because you're going to be able to, first and foremost, increase your close rate. Now, some of you may be small and solo and you don't have many employees and you're thinking, I don't need a non-attorney salesperson. I'm not big enough. Hold your horses. I promise I'll get to that at the end. You want to use a non-attorney salesperson because they're going to close at a higher rate and they're going to do so consistently. You're not going to get your associate to close at that level. And the reason is associates aren't salespeople and they're not you. So they're not going to be able to close like you close. And so if we don't close at the right number, at the right percentage, all we're doing is wasting a bunch of money in advertising, generating leads that we're not going to turn into clients. The second reason that you want to use a non-attorney closer is because they are going to help you get a greater case value. What we have found is that founders, owners, associates tend to cut more deals, tend to lower prices or feel the emotion of price sensitivity, whereas salespeople don't. So if you tell a salesperson to sell something for $5,000, they're going to sell it for $5,000. If you put the owner of the firm in there to sell something for $5,000 and the client has crocodile tears and can't afford it, you'd be shocked as to how many times the owner reduces the price. In a small and solo circumstance, that's your choice. But what we have found is if you actually want to scale your firm, if you want to maximize profitability, if you want to maximize the gross revenues that you generate inside whatever level you're trying to build to, you have to get your pricing right and consistent. And so you need to have a non-attorney salesperson who's just going to follow directions and close according to the schedule that you provide to them with. So they're going to follow your pricing guidelines and they're going to close at a higher amount than everybody else. The data just proves it that we're able to see higher case values when we use non-attorney salespeople as compared to when we use associates or founder salespeople. The third reason that you're going to want to pay attention to non-attorney salespeople is because you're going to get more money down. A salesperson knows that a sale isn't a sale until we collect money. Most attorneys, owners, or associates tend to think about a sale in terms of engagement letters and client service agreements. And they don't think about the money. They think about getting the document and the contract signed, not about collecting money. They also oftentimes default to a standardized payment schedule, whereas a salesperson is incentivized to make sure that they get as much money down during the initial consultation as possible. Now, if you have rules in place for the salespeople to follow and you inspect them and they're incentivized accordingly to make sure that they hit their goals, you're going to increase the amount of money that you receive on average as a down payment during the initial consultation. We're going to tell the salesperson what they're expected to do and what their maximum flexibility during creating payment plans, because they are not the owner of the firm. They can't make exceptions. And because they're judged on how much money they get down, they don't see a sale as a sale when a contract is signed. They see a sale as when we get payment. And so they look for the payment. And because of that, we get a higher average case value. And because of that, we get a higher average amount of money down than when we use an associate or even the owner in the initial consultation room. The third reason is we want to buy back your time. In most law firm settings where the founder is the salesperson or even the associates are the salespeople, what happens is sales is a very reactive situation. We want to get on the calendar as soon as possible. So that means we have to have enough inventory open to close enough new deals to keep the flow going. Since you don't have clients that buy from you year after year, you have to sell new clients every day, every week, every month, or else you're going to lose cash flow at some point in your payment cycle. Which means we have to make sure we have enough inventory of appointments for initial consultations. And if you're the founder doing this or their associates doing this, if you get really busy with the work, your calendar's blocked up with court time or client meetings time or just working on case time, and there's not enough time to meet with new clients. And that's how we end up with this feast and famine cycle. We end up with periods where we have a lot of sales, and then we have periods where we don't have as many sales because we're busy getting the work done. When you have a non-attorney salesperson in charge, you steady out the number of new clients that you bring in every week, every single month. And so we bring consistency to the close rate, the case value, the average money down, and we get your time back and put somebody in that seat that is going to get consistency in the number of new clients that we're retaining on a regular basis. Which brings me to my next point. One of the biggest problems when you use associates to close deals is what we call case theft. What we want to do is eliminate case theft. What is case theft? It's popular in litigation level firm. This is more popular in some practice areas than in others, like family law. This is very popular. Cases that tend to take a while, meaning they're in the works for 6 months, 9 months, a year. What happens when the lawyer is working with the client for a firm, if you have trained the associate to be the salesperson, they've now closed the deal, they're working with the client, and if that lawyer is unhappy in any way whatsoever, they can walk out of your office with a fistful of cases, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because, as we all know, there's no non-competes in law. You can't completely eliminate this problem, but you can not make it easy for the lawyer. So I really don't want to see you using associates as salespeople, because first, they're not very good at it. And when you find one that is, there's a very good chance they're going to become your competition. The next point, if you want to scale your firm, you need to have a non-attorney sales team. You've got to make sure you're using non-attorney salespeople. Because as I said earlier, if you're using associates or using the founder as salesperson, it's simply not a scalable model. You're never going to get there if you or your associates constantly have to be the salespeople. It's just very, very challenging. Using a non-attorney sales team is the way in which you build scale. Which leads me to my next point. You absolutely positively need a sales system. And if you don't have non-attorney salespeople, it's going to be impossible for you to get a sales system that matters. If you're using associates to sell and they're also doing work, or if you, the founder, are doing sales, you're going to be operating outside of the system so often that you're not going to have accountability. You're not going to have the proper training, the proper management. And if you want to get to your firm to maximize out either the level 1 firm or maybe they get to the CEO level, you have to have a sales system. And in order for you to have a sales system, it requires that you have data that's measured. It requires that you inspect that data regularly, and it requires that you have accountability. You're just not going to get your associates who don't want to be salespeople, or you, because there's more important roles for you to be doing in the firm. And you're not going to have an accountability system without a salesperson. You need a person who understands selling, who understands sales, and who is willing to be accountable to that system. Without that person, you have no system. Now, for those of you that were small and solo, I would bring this into play. I'm going to call this utility. Even if you're a keep it small, keep it all firm. If you say to me, Rich, I don't have enough payroll for a non-attorney salesperson, I'm not big enough. My argument is, yes, you are. Non-attorney salespeople are at the top of the food chain of salespeople in a law firm. They are the most skilled salesperson you have. Now, when you build your firm correctly, if you start with somebody who can do the non-attorney sales job, and that's important, if they can actually do it, the question you have to ask is, what else can they do? So look, on the rung of sales skills, that means they can manage collections and receivables for you. That means they can help you set appointments. They can even help with entry-level customer service if you need it. So if you're a keep it small, keep it all firm, and you just have you and a few employees, using a non-attorney salesperson who can do the actual closing and have them bought completely in as a utility player, that's the person you want because they can be a utility player for you. Here's where most people get this wrong. Most people take a paralegal or an appointment setter or a receptionist and they try to turn them into their non-attorney salesperson. The problem is the non-attorney salesperson requires a certain set of skills. I have to recruit the non-attorney salesperson and then I can have them do the lower end jobs. I can't take somebody from a lower skilled job in the sales world and know that they're definitely going to be able to do the non-attorney salesperson role. And then finally, the only way for me to get you to the CEO level is to get you to that $3 million mark. It depends on practice area. And if you're a contingency-based firm, that changes the game entirely because now it's about how long it's going to take us to collect the cash. But to get you to the CEO level, I'm going to need to replace you in all the other worlds. And the first place I have to replace you is the sales world. So if you're a firm that wants to get to the CEO level, I've got to replace you in the sales role because I need you doing too many other things in order to make this firm run. I can't have you selling all day long and being reactive all day long. You will never get the work done you need to get done. And so I got to get you out of the sales role. Then I got to get you out of the legal seat. And the only way to do that is to have somebody bringing consistency of a close rate, consistency of a case value, consistency of average money down, consistency of average number of clients that turn in on a weekly, monthly basis, and a consistency of somebody who's accountable to a sales system. If we do that, we can get you to the CEO level. Without that, you're going to struggle to get to the CEO level in a way that's lasting, meaningful, and actually supports your lifestyle and doesn't have you working 90 hours a week. If you're struggling with this and you don't know how to go about recruiting a non-attorney salesperson for yourself and you'd like our help, it is something that we actually do. So visit us at thelawfirmsecret.com for free tools and resources in addition to your ability to book a call with us, and we can have a conversation about how we can walk alongside of you and actually help you attract that non-attorney salesperson for your firm. Hope that you find this useful. By all means, go ahead and subscribe, comment, ask any questions that you have, and I'm happy to answer them for you.